Let's be honest, there's no guidebook when it comes to relationships. So we end up having to stumble through life trying to figure things out for ourselves. What if there was a podcast that found the answers for you, that provided insight to build a successful relationship and ultimately find the companionship you've always hoped for? Welcome to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we answer the questions most people are afraid to ask when it comes to lessons in life and love. It's time to master this thing called life together with your hosts, John and Ashley.
And welcome back, everybody. Here we are. We just finished a major course going on there. We hope everybody learned something. And we are going to dive into something a little bit more that you can use today. And that is flirting.
Flirting. My favorite part of any conversation when it comes to relationships is flirting. Flirting is fun. There's different types of flirting, obviously, but when you do it right, it's perfect. It's a symphony.
Yeah. Flirting today is almost a completely lost art. Because when I'm out and I'm meeting people, it's almost like they really don't know what they're doing. And when I watch other people at clubs and bars or any social gathering where two people kind of meet up, it's like, what are you doing?
Right.
But there are different ways that you can flirt, and each different way has a totally different outcome.
Yep. The thing is, flirting nowadays, like you said, is lost art. But the reason is because people are rushing something. If you're flirting and you're having a good time, you take your time, you move slowly, and you progress slowly through a conversation. You don't have to get right to doing it with somebody. I mean, have a little fun. It's the chase. It's the biggest part of the chase is to be able to have that conversation, to be able to, feel your movements and understand when they zig, you zag, or you zig too. But just having that cohesive flow of a conversation, it is a masterpiece. And when you learn how to do it, you won't ever disengage somebody from a conversation.
Yeah. And I think it really stems from we are so online and we're so into our phones and are in our own heads that people have kind of forgotten how to do it. And especially in today's society, I mean, you can't touch somebody without them freaking out on you or it being misinterpreted. Right. And that's learning how to read body language and what different cues mean in different situations. And according to the type of flirting you're doing, we get into all that a little bit later. Right now, we really just want to focus on flirting itself and the different ways that you can flirt and kind of helping people identify the type of flirting that they are naturally drawn to.
That's important, dude. That is one of the most important things you'll probably say this whole entire show. Everybody is not meant to do everything. Can you do the 5 different types? Absolutely. Should you? No. You need to find the one that is good for you. Maybe 2. You have it's like the Enneagrams. You might be a 4 and a 5, whichever ones work for you are the ones you want to practice, you want to hone in on. Obviously, you're going to have to be flexible as a human being, but know your 2 types and be ready for situations where your 2 types are appropriate.
Yeah. Now, it is possible to actually mix these things up. Like you're naturally drawn to one type of flirting, but there's another type that you are kind of good at. But when you look at these and you go through each one of them, it is possible to switch back and forth depending on how the situation is developing.
I agree, man. I agree. So let's jump into the first type of flirting. And this is traditional flirting.
Yeah, traditional flirting is really the most common type, but traditional flirting is usually between 2 people that have like a former relationship of some type. And they kind of know each other at work or they're the friend of another friend. So you kind of have that relationship somewhat is already established. And it's really a non-romantic relationship that both of you want to take a little bit further.
Yep. And you want to make sure when you're talking about traditional flirting, we're literally talking about, and the best way I can reference this, is if you watch any workplace comedy and you watch something develop into a romance, they'll have jokes, they'll have inside jokes, they'll spend extra time at the person's desk, they'll do all of those things. They'll make sure that the person's there at work. If they're not at work, the only person who knows why they're not at work is the person they've been flirting with. People will call you guys a couple, they'll joke about you guys being a couple. Traditional flirting is really an art form. And when we start to teach you how to traditionally flirt, you're probably going to think to yourself, I already do that. But there are techniques, there are different ways to kind of slide into a relationship rather than just jumping in and saying, oh my God, we're flirting, let's keep flirting. You can keep it subtle because that's what you want to do. You want it to be subtle. And it's, once again, flirting is a symphony.
Yeah. And usually the type of people that are really drawn to this are more of the introverted type people. And it's not so much the extroverted, because the introverted person is already somewhat accepted by the person that they're engaging with. Another way of describing traditional flirting is the guy makes the first move and then the girl kind of joins in. And every little touch, you kind of know what that touch means. Every little inside joke, you know what it's in reference to. So you have like these very, very subtle sexual innuendos that really nobody else is picking up on, but you both know what you're talking about. It's almost like you're in sync with each other.
And this type of flirting can go really right if you understand that they are actually flirting with you, or really wrong, because traditional flirting, like John said, it's typically an already established dynamic. So it gets complicated to the point where you can't just assume they're flirting with you, but you flirt back. And it's a very, 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 very thin line. I would say it's a thin line between flirting and friendship sometimes. And you have to be able to distinguish which one. That's where traditional flirting gets really, really complicated. I'm not saying that so you overthink it. I'm just warning you ahead of time in case you think you're traditionally flirting with someone, they may just be in a friendship with you.
Right. Yeah. You have to understand the dynamic that is taking place. And it's very, very easy, especially for guys, to misinterpret how traditional flirting takes place and what is happening, because you can be walking away and going, oh my God, she digs me. Okay, here we go. I'm in. And you ask her out and, I'm taken.
Oh God. It's one of the worst. It's sad. And it's hard even for the girl. Cause it's like,
that's not where I was heading with that. Now, what we did there is we just went from traditional flirting to a different type of flirting altogether.
Right.
And we're going to be getting to that one, and I'll reference it when we get there.
And, as far as traditional flirting, you also want to make sure with traditional flirting, like John said, it's more for introverted people. But the problem is that when you're introverted, sometimes those extroverted people seem like they're flirting. So I always say one thing, you always want to make sure that you are on the consensual end of flirting. So if you feel like someone's trying to get with you and you're not feeling it, talk to them. If you feel like you're trying to get with someone and they're not reciprocating, talk to them, because flirting is harmless. But when you really start to see the different types of flirting and how much time you begin to invest in a human, I am all for efficiency. So rather than, going through the motions, getting the number, doing all these things, just be upfront.
And when I mention introverted people, what I'm really talking about is that they are more comfortable with that. It's not saying that they are the only traditional flirters. They're just more comfortable because they've already been invited to talk with the person that they want to talk to. I mean, it's not saying that extroverted people are not traditional flirters. They absolutely are. It just goes about it, or it starts in a different way. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next type of flirting that we have is known as physical flirting. Now, traditional flirting usually ends up with a non-romantic relationship that then becomes romantic. Physical flirting, you find this very much more at bars and clubs and social situations in which people are there to actually meet other people.
Right.
So that's usually where this usually takes place.
I'll tell you what, this is the trickiest when it comes to flirting. This physical flirting is something you have to not only master, but you have to completely understand before you decide to go out there and try and do it. the way things are, some people don't like to be engaged physically. You have to be able to really read a person to understand this. And if you aren't sure, then the answer is fall back, always.
Yeah, because physical flirting usually has a lot of physical touch, and the conversation is also very sexually suggestive. Almost everything out of your mouth is something of a suggestion.
Filthy.
Yeah, and the other person's going to reciprocate right back. Oh, well, how did you know that I meant that? I mean, it's that kind of thing.
And if you're a guy, my advice to you is let the girls take the lead on the physical flirting. It's easier. And it will save you a headache. It will save you from being called a pervert or having a drink spilled in your face. It will save you from those things. If you allow a woman to set the tone on physical flirting, you're literally saying, I'm into you. Let's do this.
Yeah. And when guys misinterpret things and they start dropping the sexual innuendos too quickly, it goes south very fast.
So uncomfortable.
I've seen people like, I got a meeting tomorrow morning. I need to go.
Right.
But what about, don't you want to finish your drink?
Nope.
No, I got to wash my hair.
Pretty sure you put something in it, buddy.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Understanding body language and understanding what is being said is extremely important. That's why physical flirting is almost a direct art form, and you have to understand body language.
I've seen maybe 3 or 4 guys who can master this. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 women who understand how to take a traditional flirting into a physical flirting, but I've never, ever seen someone overtly start out with physical flirting because it is a fucking nightmare if it goes wrong.
Yeah. And usually what happens with physical flirting is a physical relationship starts really fast. Mm-hmm. That sexual chemistry is just right there. And it tends to last for quite a while. There is also a stronger emotional connection can develop quicker than the other 4 types of flirting. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of that, the relationships that are built on this usually die out just as quickly.
Crash and burn, baby. Crash and burn. That's exactly what you're going to do. When you only engage in physical flirting, and it's fun, like John said, it's super fun for a while. I mean, it's really amazing, and it will give you some life-changing sex moves. But what it won't do is it won't secure that bond. It won't, like traditional flirting where they secure your bond emotionally, and you guys have all these jokes, and you never run out of things to talk about. Solely engaging in physical flirting, like as soon as the person starts to try and talk to you, you're going to be like, oh my God, why didn't I screen you? You know?
That's one of the reasons that it's kind of important that you're able to flip back and forth between the types of flirting while you are talking to the person. So you can go from physical flirting, kind of move over into traditional flirting, back into physical flirting, move back into traditional, or mix in some of the other types of flirting that we have.
So then the next type, sincere flirting. Now, I wasn't familiar with this, so I'm going to read you the definition. Sincere flirting has a distinct mark of wanting to create an emotional connection with another person. People who use sincere flirting want to develop intimacy with their partners. To me, I think this is creepy.
It can be creepy in a sense because I personally have flipped between sincere flirting and traditional flirting. Now, a little bit later on, we start talking about polite flirting, but with sincere flirting, this is one that I kind of use. And it's not really creepy in the sense that you would see like a serial killer or something like that use. Really what it is you are developing more of that emotional connection and developing an intimacy with somebody. So it's a lot slower than traditional flirting.
Oh, okay. I got you. That's when you start to learn about somebody, and you actually ask them questions. You participate in these very deep talks.
Well, it's the deep talks with a little bit of physical, and then you kind of go into the deep talks. Then you kind of go into your jokes a little bit. Then it's a little bit physical. Then you start to get to know them a little bit better. So you're kind of flipping back and forth, and it's just a lot slower than anything else. So,
Yay.
yeah, so it's a lot of, let's see, how can I put this without sounding totally obscure so that people can actually understand what I'm saying? You really start to build out and really learn, and the person is expressing a lot more of their inner self than you would find with any of the other type of flirting that goes on.
Oh, you're coal mining.
Pretty much,
coal
yeah.
mining. Okay, I see that.
But it's back and forth. Yeah.
Okay. So, in my mind, if I were to start, if I know these three types of flirting, I would start with some traditional and then move to sincere to secure that bond. So traditional, and this is just me giving people a formula who are like, well, I have someone at work I want to talk to and move things forward. So I would start with the traditional, you guys have your little inside jokes, and then I would get a little more personal, a little more sincere flirting, and then, grab their butt or something. Don't grab their butt, but,
Yeah.
Do something
You
like
can
that.
also find sincere flirting in the people that have been in a relationship for like 5 or 6 years.
Right.
So when they flirt, it's extremely subtle, and the flirting can last all day. And then you've got like the grand prize at night. So it's kind of like one of those all day flirting type things. And it's just an innuendo here, a touch there, innuendo here, touch there, the text message at work. That's where you kind of find sincere flirting. But for people who have just met and you've been talking to them for a couple of hours or an hour and a half, and you've been doing the traditional flirting, you can go into sincere for 5-10 minutes and then back to traditional.
You don't want to get too personal too quick, because then it does come off as creepy.
Yes.
You want to make sure that you're securing that, you're showing them that you're willing to be emotionally connected to them. But at the same time, I'm willing to keep it light. So I like that. I like that a lot.
The only thing about sincere flirting, and it's one of the major drawbacks to it, is that if you are a sincere flirter, the other person doesn't know that you're flirting because it lacks the communication and that sexual interest or that romantic interest that you want to show them.
That's a shame.
That's where, how come they don't know I like them? I'm doing all of this, but
why won't they make a move?
Why won't they make a move? And the other person kind of scratching their head is they're thinking, were they flirting with me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's very, very complicated. That's a conundrum we've all been in. It's one that we hope to never be in. We hope to identify if someone's flirting with us, which is something we will definitely talk about. But I think the sincere flirting, that is such a shame, though, that you can miss it because you are thinking, well, they're not making any physical, attempts at flirting. Like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, they're kind of sitting there. Are you going to ask me out?
All right. That sucks.
Are you flirting with me? I'm not sure. What are you getting at?
They could just be being nice. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, because the person that you're flirting with is misinterpreting your flirting for just being nice.
Right on. Oh,
yeah. Now, the next type of flirting that we've got is playful flirting. Now, what I was mentioned earlier with the traditional flirting, this is the playful flirting part. This is the person, they just pretty much enjoy flirting.
Mm-hmm. Ugh.
Yeah.
These people are the bane of my existence, by the way.
Yeah, it's something fun. They're not really looking for a relationship. They just enjoy the entire aspect of flirting. It's almost like they get an ego boost out of it. I've still got it.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. It's annoying, by the way. So if you're one of those people, at least tell somebody. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And this, when you can have this relationship at work and you think that this person is interested in you because they're constantly flirting with you, they drop the little innuendos here and there. The difference between traditional and playful is traditional flirting, when they drop the innuendos, it's reciprocated and it comes back. So both of you are kind of rolling with it. But with a playful flirter, they drop the innuendo, you send it back to them, and they kind of start backing out of it.
Right.
Like, whoa, no. you're misinterpreting this, and got this when guys start really not understanding, and when women are like, this is sexual harassment.
Yeah, I think when it comes to playful flirting, the problem herein lies is people who playfully flirt, they playfully flirt with people who like them. It's one thing just to have a fun, casual conversation, but if you know somebody likes you and you're flirting with them, it's almost unconscionable to do that, because when they do send those signals out and you're like, oh, how did that happen? It's because you thought it would be fun to play with their emotions. If you are playfully flirting with somebody, make sure you establish that. And obviously, most people get defensive and be like, hey, I thought we were just friends. I wasn't flirting with you. Yeah. But make sure that you establish that you have no romantic interest in them. Because I don't flirt with people I don't have romantic interest in. It's not me.
Now, there are people at work that I will playfully flirt with, but we both know, like, it is established that we both know we're not really interested in each other. And we do it just kind of pass the time, because we are locked in a very small, confined space for like 12 hours. After about 3 or 4 hours, we start getting extremely bored. So we start looking for stuff to do. So we will start to playfully flirt. And at the end of the night or in the morning, we're just like, okay, see you in 12 hours.
Right on.
But it's already established. We already know that we're not actually looking for a relationship with each other. Or if we do have questions about each other, we've already established a relationship where we can go, wait a minute, are you interested in seeing about a relationship? And they'll be like, oh, no. I was like, all right, okay, just want to make sure. So what about...
Exactly. See, playful flirting is the most soul crushing thing, especially if somebody is more introverted, or somebody is more, or somebody's more timid, and they're taking this time to have interest in you, and they're really putting their best foot forward, and you crush them. Yeah. It's not necessarily your fault, but you have to be careful, because when you're playfully flirting, you're playing with someone's emotions. Yeah. Sometimes.
Playfully flirting, it can be very dangerous. So if you enjoy flirting, make sure that the other person knows that you're just playing and you're not really looking for something. But playful flirting is a good way of practicing the other ways of learning how to flirt. But you have to be careful with it, because it can be misinterpreted very quickly, and the person that you are flirting with can become extremely upset that you're messing with them.
Especially if you're in a workplace.
Yeah.
You don't want to ruin that relationship you have in the workplace. You don't want to oversell your market value by flirting with someone and you're really not interested. You don't want to do that. Or you're dating someone, you don't want to do these things. You have to be conscious. As the person who's being flirted with, you still have to be conscious. This is a human being who is putting themselves on the line and saying, here I am, accept me. And you have to be very, very gentle, because I'll give you one piece of advice. If someone is willing to bare their soul, the best thing you can do is at least be gentle when you throw it back at them. Just be gentle, understand, say, I really appreciate that, I'm flattered, blah, 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 but I don't see you like that. I'm sorry. You just have to be cognizant of that when you are being flirted with also.
Yes. Now, the last type of flirting is known as the polite flirting. Now, this is like a combination of everything all rolled up into one, but it has a different outcome than the sincere flirting and the playful flirting, and also your traditional flirting and your physical flirting. Polite flirting is where somebody takes a very cautious approach in order to not show any sexual behaviors.
Oh, that's impressive, though.
This one is another one that I'm rather good at, because polite flirting, say I'm at a social gathering. It's not a nightclub. It's not a bar. It's not like a wild party or anything. Let's just say it's like a business type get together. Okay. Now this is where you can do polite flirting, and it's not going to be overbearing to the other person. So you don't have that traditional flirting with the inside jokes and stuff like that. You're not being extremely physical. So it comes in very low key, and the other people around you really don't know what's going on unless they're like zoomed in, focused on just the two of you.
I do that to couples sometimes. I zoom in and focus, like hyper focus on people. I don't know what to think about polite flirting. To me, that's just being polite. I don't know. It just seems like
it's being polite, but there are like very small gestures. Like you'll touch their hand just a little bit longer. They kind of like glance at you and like, okay, we can go here. But you're kind of protecting your business environment or your business persona, so to speak.
Okay. So
you
you're
don't want
like
to come off, you don't want to come off as being unprofessional in front of everybody.
Yeah, I'm not a polite flirter. I'm just not going to do that. I don't do that. I'm very, very much a traditional flirter, believe it or not. I'm not overly vulgar with people because I think that's just disgusting. Unless I get into a relationship with them, then I'm just a fucking trash bag. But when you first meet someone, I think traditional flirting is the way to go. What do you think, man?
I'm much rather traditional flirting and really kind of flipping back and forth. Just because you can go into the polite flirting. Because the thing about polite flirting is that you're seeking that sincere and emotional connection that you would get with the traditional flirting and the sincere flirting, but it's kind of like a combination of the two wrapped up into one. So there's not a whole lot of playfulness involved with it.
Right.
Really, my three styles. First, I would say I'm more of a traditional, and then I go into a little bit of sincere, and then maybe a little bit of physical. But polite flirting is like a combination of all of those.
Yeah.
It's just physical is taken way down so that you're not embarrassing somebody in front of their colleagues.
Right, or yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. I would go with, I start traditional. I would probably say then I go physical, then sincere. But I'm sure anyone who's dated me would say, you're a sincere flirter. You always ask all these deep questions, which is true. But I like to know someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I am a sincere flirter. I like to get to know someone. I like to know what makes them tick. I enjoy emotionally bonding with someone and really getting to know them and how they behave. This way I know where I can fuck up and where I don't, where I can't.
Yeah. So that's really the 5 styles of flirting. You have traditional, physical, sincere, playful, and polite. So now that you know what type of flirter you are, now you know which one to kind of focus in on in order to build it up. But you have to also remember, flirting is contextually based, and it's also based on where you are at. Like I said, if I'm at like a business function and I bump into somebody, I want to get to know them and talk with them and kind of let them know, hey, I'm interested in you. I'll do polite flirting. Once we move away from that venue and we go someplace else, like out for coffee or something, then I can turn into more traditional and maybe add a little bit of physical into it, but not too much.
Right. Physical is something, like I told you guys, extreme caution. And I think you have to do a little sincere flirting with someone before you can gauge them, gauge their comfortability with physical flirting. I would also say that if someone's overtly just trying to do you, they're not flirting. Yeah. They are literally just trying to get it in and go back home. And if that's what you want to do, go for it. But don't mistake that as someone being into you. Don't mistake that as them being intimate or flirty. Some people are just, one-night standers.
Well, one thing I should mention about polite flirting is kind of like what sincere flirting is. The person that you're flirting with, if you were too polite, again, they're scratching their head, kind of wondering, where are we going with this? I mean, the question is not there as much as with sincere, but it's if you just leave it at that without switching to another type of flirting, they're going to be questioning themselves.
Right. And because it is contextual, obviously modify your version of traditional to, like John said, if he's at a business meeting, you're not going to sit there and rub someone's back. You're not going to be like, oh, your skin's so soft. You're going to want to stay on the topic at hand, but you're going to want to work your stuff in. So make sure that you understand the reason I say two is because it's easy to transition once you've got your type of flirting down. Like, I'm a very traditional person. I can traditionally go back and forth and back and forth. Yeah. And then it's easy for me to transition into, okay, so what happened to you when you were a child that makes you so effed up? And I can easily transition. If I started with physical, I would be lost when it came to transition into a different type of flirting.
Yeah, because you're going to lose them.
Right.
It's really hard to start with physical and then back off because, especially if they're reciprocating, because then they're like, okay, wait, I thought we were doing this. We're not doing this anymore?
We're not doing this anymore? All right, fine.
Yeah. So it's really going from physical to, like, say, sincere or traditional, and then coming back to physical, you're going to, their mind's going to be like, what is going on here?
Right. That's why I say perfected.
Yeah. And you really have to know the body language and how to actually flirt. So if I'm politely flirting, it's not really overt. I don't hold it for a very long time. But hey, how about we go over here and get another drink? And then put my hand in the small of her back for a couple of seconds. And that's considered polite flirting because a friend doesn't touch another woman in the small of her back.
Right.
And a woman definitely doesn't do it if she doesn't have some kind of other intention involved. It's just one of those areas that's kind of like, if you're a friend, you don't go here.
Right. This is like an erogenous zone. Yeah, definitely be cognizant though.
Yeah. Touching of the chest, not man to woman, woman to man. A traditional flirting move would be for a woman to not put her hand on your shoulder, but more on your chest, or go drag the fingers from the shoulder to the chest. Is kind of a flirtatious type move. Don't misinterpret it. Again, you have to take this whole thing into context. Just because they do that doesn't mean that they're interested in you.
If you say, feel my pecs, and she touches your chest, she's not flirting with you. You asked her to do that. You know what I mean? So, like, be cognizant.
Some people, they could get into playful flirting, and that's playful flirting gesture. So, again, the whole thing is taken into context. You can't take any one of these things I'm saying and, oh, this is what it means because he said it. No, I did not. Mm-hmm. It's the whole conversation and the whole thing in context.
Can you imagine someone being like, well, John said, if I did this, you would go out with me. What the fuck?
I've had that happen. And I was like, dude, where'd you get that from? Well, this is what she did. She did it once.
Right.
And she was laughing at the time. She almost fell over.
She was like literally hugging her husband laughing, and you were like, oh, well, she did it. No, listen, it's context. It's very important every time. It does not matter how many times you've gone out with a person. Sometimes they're not going to want to do those things that you want to do flirting wise. And you have to respect that. If someone's not into you and you keep trying to flirt with them, eventually you're going to either drive them crazy or they're going to say something really nasty to you. And so you want to be aware and make sure that is being reciprocated at all times, that is consensual. I'm not going to sit here and say you're sexually abusing someone if you're flirting with them unwillingly, but you're just getting on their fucking nerves, and don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not working, back out. Like we said on the last show, if you try and start a conversation with somebody and they're just kind of like not into it and you keep pressing forward, all that's going to do is just piss them off.
Right.
Be able to back out of it, let it rest, maybe just not exit the entire area, but take a couple steps away from them for a couple of minutes, and then try and open again, or maybe try to start the conversation again by not asking the same damn question or asking for the same friggin' opinion. You got to be able to think on your feet and take the entire social situation into account as to what is going on.
Stop being a creep. Stop being a creep. Stop being a creep. There's no right way to do this, no wrong way to do this. We're just giving you the 5 different types. I recommend finding one that you love and kind of starting with that one. If you love physical, try again. Try one of the other try between traditional, polite, and sincere when it comes to starting, and then use physical as a secondary flirting technique.
Yeah.
If you're a playful flirt, be cognizant, be reminded that you are dealing with someone who might like you, and you need to be aware of what you're possibly putting them through.
Yeah, the only place that I could possibly think where physical flirting would be acceptable to lead off with would be like at a party or at a club or
when you're like
something of that.
17.
No, I've done it probably 7 months ago, maybe. I was at a party, but the girl that I was talking to, she was very into me already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like she had already made up her mind that she wanted to get to know me. So when I went up and I started talking to her, it was like pretty much on. And I was like, okay, well, let's run with this. But that would be the only two situations that I could think of where physical flirting would be okay to lead off with. Pretty much everywhere else, it is like off limits. You try to do that. You try it anywhere where the environment is not upbeat and people are like flirting with this person and turning around, flirting with the next person. Anywhere else, yeah, it's not going to work.
It's also just, like I said, it's tacky. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it.
It's not for everybody. So that's one of the cautions you kind of have to watch out for with physical flirting. Usually I would go with traditional flirting or polite flirting. Just understand that polite flirting can be misinterpreted because they don't know what the hell you're trying to do. So if you have that romantic interest, you can start off with it, but you have to eventually come around to actually letting them know, hey, I would like to see you more than just in this one environment.
Simple conversation.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking, but simple conversation.
Yeah. Now, polite flirting can lead into long-term relationships along with traditional flirting. Again, traditional flirting, you usually have that relationship is already established. It's just non-romantic, and now you're going to move it into romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Polite flirting, there's usually no relationship ahead of it, at least nothing established. So they're more like an acquaintance that you might see like once every 3 months. I don't know, your barber, nail stylist, whatever.
That's funny. Hey.
There's somebody that you don't see on a regular basis. So you start off with polite flirting, but then you have to move it forward. So you have to get into traditional, and then you can go into the other types. So
this is practical, sound advice we're giving here. So if you think it's like, oh, this is so difficult, I don't understand it. I believe we have something written up about flirting. So we're going to go ahead and post that on the website, obviously. And probably in the show notes too. But we want you guys to really start using your resources when it comes to this show, because we're not just a show. We're here to help you guys. We're here to get you guys prepared for dating and possible long-term relationships. So we really want you to start going on the website, downloading these tools, or going in your show notes and, taking these tools and using them, writing them down as you go through everything. You want to make sure that you're documenting your journey, every single part of it. And if you started flirting with someone, keep a flirt journal. And not obsessively like Norman Bates, but, keep a decent flirt journal to say, I tried this with this person, it didn't work, but I re-engaged and it worked. You want to make sure that you're just going through everything and you're really trying and you're actively putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, you really can't get better unless you know where you're messing up. So if you tried traditional flirting and it really didn't work out, if you actually take notes, you can actually look back on those notes and go, okay, I tried this, I tried that. And this part worked. We got a little bit further, but then I tried this and I crashed and burned. That's really how I got to where I'm at. I was obsessive with this stuff and I kept detailed notes so I know what works, what doesn't. Again, I can't say it works 100% of the time because, I still crash and burn every once in a while. But I don't crash and burn as much as when I first started doing this stuff. Because there is no concrete way of flirting. I can't give you a list of, here's A, B, C, and D. it doesn't exist. Anybody that tells you they're selling you a bunch of snake oil.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So we've got you with the 5 types of flirting.
Yeah. So in the next episode, what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit further into this to kind of give you some practical tips and some stuff that you can look out for while you are actually learning to flirt.
This sounds fun.
That's all for this episode of the Girls Ask Guys show, where all of us learn to master this thing called life together. For more answers to your questions on life and love, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And head to girlsaskguyshow.com to submit your questions for a future episode or apply to be a guest on the show. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Girls Ask Guys show.